This is the Real Red. Live on KFOR and Nebraska falls to Colorado 36-14. My name is Will Wilson, joining you first. We're going to be joined by many other people: Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbal, Bill Hooks, and Bill Dolman might be stopping by. And this is your reaction show. We want calls from you. Nebraska loses on the road. They fall to 0-2, 36-14. The number you need to call to get your voice heard, 489-1240, 402-489-1240. Also on the StreamYard. You can find it on all of our social media pages, KFOR, KFOR Sports, Hail Varsity YouTube. All of that, the chat area is open for you. We already have a lot of comments coming in, and we want to hear what you have to say. Nebraska loses. And let's be honest, it did not go a lot of the way a lot of people thought. I do a show with Bill Hooks here on KFOR in the morning, and I think every single media member we had on picked Nebraska. There was a lot of other media members picking Nebraska earlier today on the Hail Varsity Morning Show. A lot of people picked Nebraska, and, well, we were wrong. You saw it there on the field. We want your reaction. I have some talking points coming up I want to get to. Again, we are waiting for Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbal to get to Blur Parties. They are in Boulder. They were at the game. They left a little bit early, so they should be arriving here shortly. They got to set up their equipment and everything. Bill Hooks will be there as well. Well, let's start going through some comments. Brian was the first one to get in. I will scour and scavenge a few salvage yards tomorrow. Evidently, the wheels are off the Husker bus and need to be found. We have Elijah chiming in. He says, our QB single-handedly lost us that game through turnovers. Can't blame the defense when they are forced to play so long. I'm embarrassed to be a Husker right now. Wow. Anybody else feeling how Elijah is feeling? He's embarrassed to be a Husker fan right now. I think we all agree that the defense looked really good the majority of that game. Really good. I mean, they were holding Colorado. They were getting stops. They made Sanders not look like a all-world QB, which we've been hearing for a week. There were some times where he made some mistakes, and the defense was able to get off the field. But like Elijah said, it was the quarterback situation. You have Jeff Sims going out there and just making the worst mistakes possible at the worst times. And this team is going to go nowhere if Jeff Sims continues to play like that. I think we all agree on that. Let's take a call right now. Again, we want to get your voice heard. 402-489-1240. Hello, you are on the Real Red Reaction Show. Go ahead. All right, I guess nobody's there. Good start to the show. Let's start going through some more of these comments. Brian is ready to unleash a lot of thoughts on this game. We have Matthew chiming in. Nebraska won't win a single game playing Sims. Keep playing Harburg. Yeah, they put Harburg in there for a few series at the end. Was able to score. Unfortunately, you did see Sims hobble off the field with it seemed like an ankle injury, and you of course hope he's okay. I know he didn't play great, but you never want to see anybody's career end through injury. So we saw Harburg come in, and you saw at halftime. You listened to Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt. They were wondering, are we going to go away from Sims? We didn't. We stuck with him. It's bad. It's really, really bad what Sims is doing. He's making the worst turnovers at the worst times. And the interception was obviously a terrible throw, but it's the fumbles. I mean, I don't think we expected him to be turning it over like that. I think we all expected if he was going to be turning it over, he was going to be, throwing picks left and right. I think he only threw one pick today, which I'm not saying is a good thing, but it was the fumbles today. And it was just horrible. I think Husker Nation is really scared right now to see what we did these last two games. Let's keep going through these comments. Kevin, Nebraska sucks. Take football away, volleyball only. Well, that would be something. Here we have Mike chiming in. He says, rule is done. If he can't see that Jeff Sims single-handedly cost Nebraska this game and still plays him, he doesn't deserve to coach this team. Total disservice to Nebraska and our fans. Husker fans, that's what I want to hear from you. Where's your trust right now with Rule and the quarterback situation? Do you want to see Sims keep playing? Do you have confidence that maybe he could figure it out? Let's be honest, there were some times in the game where he looked okay. That 57-yard run was nice. It kept us in the game. I think it all kept our confidence up when that happened. We're like, okay, we're not dead yet. Because before that, the offense wasn't great. I got to say, Gabe Ervin, he's a man. I'm really happy with Gabe Ervin and Ramir Johnson. I think those two running backs are really talented. They were really the only thing going for us on offense today. Gabe Ervin, he's nice. And the O-line, they kind of figured it out. That's, in my opinion, that's 2 games in a row where it took the O-line some time to figure it out. You saw in that first series, wasn't great. But then the run game started going, and they started to figure it out. They look good in the run game, the O-line. In the passing game, still crap, in my opinion. I got a lot of crap last week saying that the O-line didn't look better than last year's. When it comes to pass protection, they don't look much better, in my opinion. And you saw it today. Sims did not have much time, sacked a lot. It's not good, except for the run game, like I said. Let's see what else we got here. Comments, again, you can call in 402-489-1240. We are waiting for Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbal to get to Blur Parties and hop on the show. I wouldn't doubt if they stopped for a beer on the way, because I think we all need one after that one. We have Matthew chiming in. Sims lost that, plain and simple. We have Kevin chiming in. Why keep Sims in 8 turnovers in 2 games? It's a really good question. And I think this coaching staff is going to be thinking about that this week. Again, more quarterback conversation. Harburg should be QB1. We have Brennan chiming in. If Rule benched Grant for 1 fumble, how is this not the standard after 3 by Sims? That is a solid point. You saw Anthony Grant not at all today. Did he even get 1 touch? I don't know if he did. So that's a really good point. We have Schmitty and Elijah and Bill Hooks finally joining us. Boys, can you hear me okay?
Yep, we're good. You got us.
Yes, I do.
We are back in for Real Red Reaction. Friends at Lazari's, of course, presenting this. You need a slice of pie, I think, Hooksy and Will. What a debacle. We were trucking on the way over. What it ended up being.
It was a poop show. I mean, just to be totally honest out there, you get there, you have the party before. Stands are pretty wild. You got a bunch of red, and the first series comes. You're moving the ball, and all of a sudden you fumble the snap. And I was sitting around a lot of people that thought, well, this might not be the day all of a sudden.
No, guys. I mean, it comes down to, you're -4 in turnovers, 2 fumbles, an interception in the first half, a questionable handoff to Irvin, and your running back gets smushed into because the tight end can't get a down block. And, special teams not good for Nebraska in the first half with 3 poor punts, a missed field goal. And the defense does not deserve to pay this bar tab because of how well they played. And it's not representative of what they were. And they ended up getting gassed a little bit in the second half. But, hey, let's give a little credit, and I know nobody wants to hear this, to Colorado. They had a moment. They seized a moment. And it's a 2-0 Colorado start and a tough look for Nebraska at 0-2, and that's what was being shouted at as we're walking back by some of the classier Buff fans. At least have some of the nicer things that was said on the way back. But can join us on Real Red Reaction, 489-1240, 489-1240. Numbers to get in, 800-825-5865, as we're directly in the sunlight. And the popular refrain on social media in the first half was all over Sims, fellas. And the turnovers, 6 turnovers in 6 quarters can't happen. You got to see a little bit of Harburg briefly, but there's some questions that need to be asked moving forward. What is his leash like moving forward when it comes to turnovers? Now, we had a just awesome counter quarterback sweep for a 57-yard touchdown that brought it 13-7. But the second half was about third down, and Colorado, when we took off, was 4 for 6 on third down, and they were third and longs. And Nebraska got dinged for at least a 3rd and 16. They converted that. That led to points. 3rd and 10, 41-yard gain led to 3 points. 3rd and 10, that was the 12-yard touchdown that made it 20-7. Colorado's answer score in that third quarter. And then you look at the 3rd and 15, you have that 40-yard gain that also led to points. So just an absolute abomination for Nebraska on that money down defensively.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to what you said. The defense doesn't deserve to pay this bar tab. They stood up for a long time today and got gassed and much improved on that side of the football. It's unfortunate for them and Coach Davis and the plays they're making and standing up and being in, bad field positioning, the turnovers. The Sims leash, I can tell you from the stands, obviously that's the popular vote, right? Is when is this has to stop? Because a lot of people keep saying we're getting what we thought we were getting from Georgia Tech, and it's happening, but something has to change, because if it doesn't, we might be in for this long haul of seeing a lot of this.
Well,
guys,
and you look at Nebraska and what they're dealing with. Defense had 5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. The thing they're missing is complementary football. A, help from the offense, but B, some turnovers. I mean, you need some help turnover-wise, but quite honestly, it feels like the defense is doing it all. As Elijah's going to join us. Where did you sneak off to? Did you sneak into the beer garden already? Elijah, we have you.
Yeah, do you have me?
I do. Did you sneak into the beer garden already?
I didn't. I'm in a booth somewhere in here. I wanted some air conditioning. It's hot out there.
Hey, guys, we got a couple calls. Let's get to.
Yep. Let's get to them.
We got Tad in California.
Chad, welcome into Real Red Reaction. Thanks for hanging tight. Go ahead.
Guys, I hate to say this, but this is the truth. And you know what I've been saying all along. We need to pound the football. We don't need to have this quarterback, and we don't need to have the offensive line, because that's our Achilles heel. We are good at going forward, but we cannot pass block, and we cannot take long things. We need to pound. And that's what we were doing until we went into the snap, and he fumbled it twice. So the way to get out of that is to pound the football like we used to and pound it till we bleed. Because I'm sick and tired of seeing the West Coast stuff coming in. We're Nebraska. We got big boys. Let's put them forward, and let's do that. Because it's just so frustrating listening and watching this stuff day in and day out. Thank you.
Yeah, Ted, thanks for the phone call. I don't disagree. It'd be wonderful to pound the rock. But first things first, fellas, you got to get the snap. Let's go to Will just stepped out, I believe. So we'll take another call. Lines are open, 800-825-5865. Elijah, you have a little bit better look-see on some of the comments. So start scrolling through some of those. The sunlight is making it a little bit impossible for me. There is not much positive to take out for Nebraska, but they had their moments on defense. I thought Urban looked good running the football. I thought at least Billy Kemp got open. The opening drive, you had a couple of nice completions by Sims, but it's your offense is in dire need already. It's game 2. And Elijah, touch on the offensive line, because you still had problems in pass protection, and you still have problems with that left side of the offensive line.
Yeah, I was actually, I don't want to say pleased with what I saw from the right side of the offensive line, but the right side of the offensive line looks like a noted improvement from last year. The left side of the offensive line is rough. It just completely limits you with what you already have at the quarterback position whenever you're not giving him any time. Already dangerous with the ball. That is completely limiting what Nebraska can do. I don't personally think that Nebraska's problem was play calling. I think it's the personnel they have offensively. I just don't think they have the personnel to go and execute what they want to do. And you can bemoan the fact that they haven't found an offense that does fit their personnel, but at the same time, nothing they have tried offensively this year so far has worked. You had a couple plays with Grant. You had the quarterback run with Sims. Not too sure why we didn't see more quarterback run from Sims today, but the passing attack was rough. The receivers didn't do a great job getting separation. The running backs did what they could, but as soon as Colorado jumped out in the game, I should say, the defense was behind the 8 ball. They were getting tired. They played a lot of snaps, and offensively, it's not a team that's built to play from behind. So I think the second half is going to leave a sour taste in your mouth because Nebraska is not meant to overscore or overcome 3-score deficits. I think you can look positive at the first quarter and a half, despite the fact that Nebraska didn't have any points to show. They were able to string together some drives, but you saw how much that game plan offensively changed following Colorado taking that 13-point lead in the halftime and then going in and stringing some drives together in the second half. This offense can't play from behind. It's not built to throw the football. They need to play in a game that's 1 score or tied where you have a small lead. And right now, I don't think the offense is good enough to go out and do that. I think you can string together some drives, but clearly the end product hasn't been there.
Okay.
We'll get to the calls. Will, who's on the line?
We got nobody on the line right now. But
Okay.
I have a few things. Yeah. I have a few things to get off my chest here. Am I allowed to say the words pissed off? Is that okay?
Yes, you're good.
Okay.
Yes, do it.
I'm pissed off at the O-line. The run game looked really good in certain times of the game, but I took a lot of crap last week after the Minnesota game for saying that this O-line wasn't much better, and look what we just saw. I'm pissed off at Jeff Sims for having 4 turnovers this game. I'm pissed off at Gus Johnson. I don't know why everyone loves Gus Johnson. He's not terrible. He's not great. He's just not my favorite. I'm pissed off at Michael Irvin for being on the sideline. You're like, bro, you went to Miami. What the hell are you doing acting like you're a Colorado Buffalo fan?
He played with Deion in Dallas.
All right, that's fair, but still, I hate him. And then the ref's not calling that.
Now, you can be upset at Terrell Owens being on the sideline.
Hey, thanks for that reminder. I'll add that to the list. And then not calling that roughing the punter. That's all. That's things I had to get off my chest. Thank you.
Well,
Brian chimes in as Schmitty and Hooksy. They drop off the face of the earth with their internet connection. Fans can't phone in. We are all on hold to the Nebraska suicide hotline. Brian, we're with you during this time. That made me laugh. I hope that's a joke. If that's not a joke, get some help. Stay on the line. If that is a joke, that makes me laugh. Thank you for that one.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is a joke. Elijah, you played O-line. Seriously, talk about this O-line, because am I wrong for saying that? I mean, yeah, the run game looked good at times, but compared to last year, are these guys really much better?
I think the right side of the line. I like what I've seen so far from Ben Scott. Is he going to go in first team All Big Ten honors this year? No. Is anybody on the offensive line going to go in first team Big Ten honors? No. But especially once Latofsky came in, Ben Hart's made a big step since last year. I think the question to me is just how much longer can you put up with that left side of the offensive line? Ethan Piper, hit or miss. He held the occasional play that makes you go, okay, Ethan Piper. And the next time he's letting the guy through almost untouched to the quarterback. Turner Corcoran on that left side, rough running it, rough passing it. That left side of the offensive line is the offensive line's downfall right now. And people chiming in, Ken here saying Corcoran needs to sit. The problem is I don't think you have anyone behind him. With Prohaska, Teddy, he hasn't played much football. He didn't play all of fall camp. I don't think he's in game shape, ready to go. I think he's on the practice field, but I don't think he's ready to actually step into a football game. And then behind that, you have Gunnar Gatula, a true freshman, who I think has a lot of potential moving forward, but he's not ready for the big time moments just now. And I think the offensive line's flaws get exposed a little bit whenever you do find yourselves behind by 3 scores. this is not a team that's built to throw the ball, not at your quarterback position, not at your wide receiver position, not at your offensive line position. But the thing is in football in 2023, you got to be able to throw the football. And that to me is cluing in me in that this is going to be a long season for Nebraska. If you can't get a lead by running the football through the first half, which is hard to do in modern college football, modern football in general, you're kind of just out of the picture entirely. So I don't see a solution to Nebraska right now because I don't think Nebraska trusts the guy they have throwing the football. I don't think Nebraska trusts the guys they have catching the football. And I don't think that Nebraska trusts the guys that they have trying to protect the quarterback. And when you combine those three things, what are you going to do offensively?
Man, it's just so frustrating to see a quarterback who the coaches went out and got. You know, I don't know what the conversation was like with Casey Thompson, but, you know, they obviously chose one guy over the other, and he's not good.
Yeah, we're currently in the process of efforting Bill Dolman, getting Bill Dolman on the show with us. Chris Schmidt and Bill Hooks, I'm not quite sure what their issues. Let's see if they're chiming in here now. Maybe not. Maybe not. We're going to continue rolling forward. Will, what'd you see from the defense, though, in the first half? Because I think that was a side of the ball that really played their asses off today. I think I can say that on the air as well. They played like hell. Something we talked about in the halftime update is it's so demoralizing to go to half, knowing that you just played a damn good half of football. Only one bust in the first half entirely was on that touchdown play where you're already behind the 8 ball in a bad spot. I think the defensive line did a great job getting pressure on Shedeur Sanders, but you could see the fatigue really wearing in. That defense was on the field for a lot of snaps.
Yes.
And by the time the late third quarter rolled around, whenever you already know the offense isn't doing anything, you're demoralized, you're tired. That's why that game got out of hand late. But I think you can take some positives away. That defense has some guys on the field. I mean, guys making plays all over. They needed a takeaway or two today. Easier said than done. But I think you can take away some positives from that first half performance from the defense. And I think the first half performance is more indicative of who they are than what the second half performance was.
100%. That defense, I mean, I needed new shorts a few times during that first half. I mean, that defense was legit. They're quick to the ball. The coverage was great, and they were actually getting to the quarterback. I mean, I'm thinking that this is the best defense I've seen since the Pelini years, and it's been a while since we've seen a defense like this. Like you said, man, I mean, to me, this is the only positive from the game. If I'm trying to think of a positive from the offensive side, obviously Gabe Ervin had a great game. I think Billy Kemp could be a really good player. You know, he's quick. You saw it when he finally got the ball. Elijah, today. And when he did, he made something out of those catches. I think he could be a really strong player, but we just don't have the quarterback to get it to him consistently.
Let's pull up some final stats in the game. Well, I'm not sure if you've run through these just yet here on the show, but the final stats for Nebraska, 341 yards of offense. That's 119 through the air, 222 on the ground. Nebraska did average 5.4 yards per carry on 41 rushing attempts, 6 penalties for 40 yards for Nebraska. And the big story, though, the 4 turnovers, 3 fumbles, 1 interception, 3 of those coming from Jeff Sims. For Colorado,
Go ahead.
For Colorado, 468 total yards of offense, 396 passing. Shedeur Sanders was 32 of 44 through the air, 9 yards per pass. That's not a winning formula. Just 72 yards rushing on 2.2 yards per carry for Colorado. They do have 9 penalties for 80 yards. And guess what? Colorado, with that fourth quarter, wins the time of possession. Nebraska had a big lead here most of the game, but they get 30 minutes and 19 seconds of time of possession. Nebraska 29 minutes and 41 seconds time of possession. But the two things I think you can take away is we welcome Bill Dolman into the show. We'll get his thoughts on this comment currently on the screen. Nebraska on third down, 4 of 13. Colorado 9 of 17, over 50% on third down from Colorado. And then obviously the 4 turnovers from Nebraska as well.
Bill, what's going on?
Well, my first concern is that my microphone is working.
That's a good thing, Bill.
That is a positive.
Yeah, so often we try this on my laptop and it doesn't. And maybe I wish this is a case in which it wasn't working. This is probably going to be a tough one to talk about. It was a tough one to watch for the most part. I didn't get a chance to listen to what Elijah just said there a moment ago to get his initial thoughts, but I think everybody's universal thoughts around Nebraska and anybody who is a Husker fan or hoping that Nebraska does well has to be disappointed and wondering I thought that some of the things that plagued Nebraska the last 5 years that we saw even last week were going to be cleared up with this coaching staff, and maybe they will be. And look, Colorado's a better football team right now than Nebraska is. I think that was pretty evident in the second half. But I think Nebraska's defense was done in more by Nebraska's offense than Colorado's offense, to be honest with you. Nebraska's offense put the Husker defense in such bad positions for so long that eventually that defensive unit wore down, and Colorado, rightfully so, took advantage of it. But the mistakes, everybody's going to say this, the fumbles, the 17, it wasn't just 17 points off turnovers. It's at least a couple of field goal tries, if not touchdowns, that you left on the carpet when you fumbled the ball away. So, yeah, Colorado scored 17 points on turnovers, but you blew the opportunity for at least 6 and some early momentum, maybe 14 with a couple of touchdowns. So those are huge swings. And with the way that defense played, other than the last 5 minutes of the first half, and look, disregard the fourth quarter, okay? They were done in. Nebraska's defense played well enough to win that football game, and the offense let it down for really the second consecutive week. That defense is going to win you a lot of football games if they're given a chance. And today they weren't given a chance, and Colorado took control or took advantage.
Yeah, Bill.
Well, the question to me, Bill, is how many times are they going to be given a chance to win you a football game? I think what you mean by that is Nebraska has a 7-point lead late in the fourth quarter. The offense doesn't shoot themselves in the foot. Like that's the problem, is the offense is going to put the defense in so many bad positions this year based on what I saw today, based on what we saw last week against Minnesota. The fact that Nebraska had a lead late in that game, and the offense puts them in a bad spot today. It's the offense right before halftime in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. The irony is not lost on me that in Colorado, in 4 minutes and 20 seconds, Colorado puts up 13 points. It really should have been more if your defense didn't bail you out there late. And all three of those possessions were made possible by poor Husker offense. I mean, one of them was the bad punt by Buschini, but you shouldn't be locked that deep in your own end of the field anyway. You also have the interception by Sims and the fumble by Sims. Like, yeah, the defense is great, but I feel like the trend of the offense putting them in a bad spot is just that. It's not, at this point, after 2 games. After game 1, you don't want to make conclusions. After game 2, you can start making conclusions. And the conclusion I take away from today is that this offense is going to continue to put this defense in bad spots. And how long is the defense going to be willing to put up with that? 12 full games? Well, for end results of losses?
Again, thank the good Lord that Nebraska's defense plays a lot of players. It's amazing again to see. I think Riley Van Poppel was out there, made a play in the fourth quarter, and you just see those players out there in the back of their jerseys, and that is a deep defensive team. And I'm a believer that maybe we have players who deserve to wear black shirts, okay? But eventually, if you put your defense in such bad positions where you give a team like Colorado or Minnesota 50 yards or less to go for touchdowns, you're going to get beat. And that's what happened against Colorado. Once they got it going, got some momentum, they went for the fish. And it probably could have been worse in the fourth quarter. They got I think the touchdown they scored on that reverse, it's against a tired defense. But I was watching, and thinking about the long game here, shall we say. I watched Illinois last night in Kansas. People think, well, Nebraska can't beat it. And I said this the other day. Who says that Illinois and Purdue and Northwestern's terrible, but some of these teams in the Big Ten are far superior. That defense that Nebraska has is good enough to beat Illinois, good enough to beat a Purdue, good enough to perhaps beat an Iowa team that's playing Iowa State right now. We know they can't score more than 24 points a game. But Nebraska's got to hold on to the football and not make bad mistakes and put that defense on a short field time and time again towards it's almost expected. They're building in a defeatist attitude, and that just can't continue.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And, going into this game, we talked about how they wanted to control the game. Schmitty, we might have you there. Control the game, limit their snaps. And I had a feeling that wasn't going to work if the offense couldn't do their thing. And we saw exactly that. I got to take this call real quick.
Elijah,
Schmitty, do we have you?
I almost expected Jeff Sims to fumble the ball on the way to the end zone when he scored from 57 yards out. I was waiting for him to step out of bounds, fumble the ball through the end zone, and give the ball. It's just that creeps into your mind like, that was a great play. He did what we expected him to do, what he did against Minnesota. He had a great play, but there's got to be a real lack of confidence right now. What's the old saying that if you don't have a good quarterback in the group, you don't have a good quarterback on the team?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I've seen, back-to-back quarterback play as subpar. I'm not going to say terrible, bad, or anything like that. Back-to-back quarterback play is subpar in 2 games, maybe since 1981 when Turner Gill, I think, took over from Mark Maurer, or maybe even Tommy Frazier took over from Mike Grant. I can't remember 2 games back-to-back like this by quarterback. At halftime, I think my rudimentary math said of the 26 points that Nebraska had allowed, Jeff Sims was responsible for 23 of them.
All right, I found a spot in the corner, fellas, and so I think the computer was about ready to melt down. Hooksy was giving her hell, and his phone died. Bless his heart. But it's it's commiserate right here with all your Husker friends at Blur. Again, big thanks to our friends at Lazari's. You need to eat your feelings, so order a large pie from your friend at Lazari's. Bill, good to see you. You're mentioning quarterback play, and a guy that we all like, but he struggled whenever he got his shot, and that's Mike Grant. You got to kind of go back to maybe that era before Tommy Frazier. I was anxious to see a little bit on Harburg. At least you got to see a little bit from him on that zone read keep. Sims is just how much longer do you roll the dice with him? And it's offensive line's not great, but they had things going. You can't go -4 in turnovers. I know we're repeating much of the same thing. And Elijah, you've got a good look, I think, at some of the stream comments, so we'll get there along with the phone calls, 489-1240. But if you're Matt Rule, your message is what? You're about 2 seconds away from having I'm sick and tired of it type thought bubble from the defense, because this is 2 games in a row. They played their ass off, and you're not getting any help. I know you're a team, and you don't want to go down that path, but you really have to be upset. Whatever you need to keep Tony White around, find a way to do it, because that guy's a rock star.
Guys,
Give a thought in from what was that, Wolf? Calling?
we do have a phone call. It's Vic. We got Vic on the line.
Vic in Denver, baby.
Vic, we need that tequila now.
I knew that was coming.
I'm so effing angry. I mean, why are you putting Sims in a position to throw the ball? Why? Don't do that. Don't do that. We're running against them. Great. I hate the scoreboard, but I feel good about this team. I mean, tell me that I'm wrong.
I think defensively, as much as I've praised them, the third down defense was brutal. Colorado made some plays, and Nebraska got tagged for some big third down gains that led to points. And eventually the levee broke, says Led Zeppelin. That's what happened. But you were getting no help offensively. You can't just go 1985 Oklahoma Sooners, Vic. You got to have some sort of threat of a passing game, and you got to have some sort of an offensive line that can be giving you a balanced offense. You can't play in fear. You can't play in fear, but you've got to find.
We did fine. We did fine with that, but not in that position. You don't have him throw the ball in that position. Come on, Chris. You know.
You're limited. So anything you do, there's a high probability of something going wrong. When it comes to a shotgun snap, when it comes to a handoff, when it comes to a third down. Was that a second or a third down pass attempt, Bill? I think it was second down, wasn't
Third.
it?
It was third. It was third down.
Okay, it's third down. So yeah, third and medium to long isn't ideal for any offense, but it's really bad for Nebraska at this point.
I hear you.
I like the comment in here.
I get it. But we were running up the middle. I hate to say it. I hate to bring up the hashtag, but run the damn ball. Come on, we had it. We were doing that. We were running the damn ball.
I think the problem is just that you got behind right before the end of the half, and it was the offense doing what this offense has done thus far this year. That's shoot themselves in the foot, give the ball away in stupid ways. And once you're behind in that game, down 13 points, I mean, Nebraska's offense, I think we can admit, left 3 to 7 points on the field.
10.
In that first half. Let's call it 10. Let's call it 10 points. Like, how do you feel about that moving forward,
6.
especially once Colorado starts getting some offense going in the second half? I think you can feel fine about what the rushing attack was in the first half. Once you're behind in that game and knowing that your defense has been on the field for a while, Colorado's offense is high powered, I think Matt Rule knew that you were going to have to get something out of your passing attack.
I hear you. I still feel like the again, I am the oldest Husker fan ever, but we were doing it. We were doing it. Even at 0-13 at half, we still had that game in hand.
It was pretty tough. It was 13-7, and then they had the answer score, and then it was over. Vic, thanks for the phone call. Appreciate your listenership as always, brother.
Have a good day.
See ya.
And I got a thought in from Twitter from Brad. I kind of want to discuss because I think it's an interesting question. Yes, how is it that Dion can rebuild a program through the portal and have a way better team than Nebraska already? And the simple fact of the matter is the talent that he brought in hit. Shedeur Sanders, that's a hit. Travis Hunter, that's a hit.
Mel Tucker hit 2 years ago.
Yeah, you can make things happen quickly in college football, and I think Husker fans were really premature this offseason in saying that Nebraska was going to be better than Colorado because Colorado looked small. Like, Colorado had talent over that field. They had guys that, coming out of high school, projected first-round picks on that roster. I don't think even I was expecting Colorado to be able to take it to Nebraska as badly as they did today. But the difference is the hit rate in your portal guys. Look at Nebraska's portal guys, who's on the field, what they're doing on the field, and compare it to Colorado's guy. Jeff Sims is turning the ball over left and right. Compare it to Shedeur Sanders. He's throwing the ball for 400 yards a game, 500 yards a game, and touchdowns. And if you notice today, no interceptions from Shedeur Sanders. You look at the defensive guys. MJ Sherman hasn't really made much of an impact that I kept seeing through his first 2 games as a Husker. Elijah Judy's made some mistakes in the defensive line that's cost the team. Chief Borders hasn't really made a splash so far during his time as a Husker. Billy Kemp looked better today. He still wasn't look like what he was touted to be whenever he was brought here. The difference is the hit rate. Nebraska was not able to hit through the portal the same way that Colorado was. The difference is what you saw on the field today, a 40-point loss.
Not yet, or as quick, and it's reeling. Bill, thoughts on an 0-2 start? Can join us at 489-1240, the Real Red Reaction Show. You're on KFOR, KFORnow.com.
I would like to make one more point there with the fact that what we talked about with the Husker team this year was they had a chance to do better than last year because you could take the talent from last year's team and supplement it with talent from the portal. But the best players on this year's team are the guys that were your players on last year's team. The talent from the portal hasn't supplemented what you already have, as well as I think Matt Rule hoped, I think as well as Husker Nation hoped. And right now you're staring down the barrel of a gun of another losing season, another season that's going to be down the drain.
The thing that really disappoints me is the sloppiness. Can we really judge? Yeah, maybe the difference in the talent portal. Look, Deion Sanders is iconic. He's unlike anything that maybe college football coaching has seen ever. It's understandable that that he would attract players that were with him at Jackson State. That people were shocked that joined him there would follow him to Colorado, and that players who were looking to go somewhere after last football season and they got a chance to play for somebody like him and that major personality, you get the opportunity, you're probably gonna take it. I get that, but Nebraska has not given itself a chance because of the mistakes, right? Again, Jeff Sims has not played well. But God, hold on to the football. right?
Yeah.
Don't have a penalty, and when it's first and goal at the 1. Unsportsmanlike conduct, that was terrible. But Nebraska's got some glaring mistakes that are far worse to me than maybe hits and misses in the transfer portal. And that comes down to what we were promised, that this is going to be cleaned up. The attention to detail. We're not going to make the same mistakes that have been, made in the past, because we are so finely tuned in how we build a program. Look, I believe Matt Rule is still the guy for the job at Nebraska. But if the biggest turnaround we were going to see this year was that things were going to be cleaner than what we've seen in the past, when there wasn't attention to detail and practice. Luke, the announcer said today, Luke Reimer felt like he was a freshman again. I think, other players have talked about, I've never been coached this way before. Oh, okay. But why are we fumbling the football? Why are we having procedure penalties? Why are we making, simple mistakes that should be cleaned up in practice? And we're doing them in a game. That, to me, is the most exasperating part of this transition. You got 65 new players, but the same old 65 mistakes. That's the problem to me.
Well, and you mentioned the turnovers. What kills me is the fact that all 4 of them are turnovers. Sometimes you just have to tip your cap to the defense and say the defense made a great play. But 2 are dropped snaps. 1 is a fumbled exchange between Sims and Gabe Ervin. And the last one is a pass from Jeff Sims that was ill-advised from the start. He threw behind Fedoni. He had Fedoni open on the sideline, but he missed it in the one place that you couldn't miss it. That's behind Fedoni, and the ball also came out a little bit late. All 4 turnovers are avoidable. None of them are ones where you look at it and say, tip your cap defense, you made a great play. On to the next one. All 4 of them are mistakes you expect to see from a JV football team, a JV high school football team.
Does Colorado still win the game? Probably. They're better. They're faster. They played at home. They were high in emotion and whatever else. They deserve to win the game. But my God, Nebraska gave them so many opportunities, short fields, killing momentum. Nebraska's first drive of the game was pretty positive, but it just the little things that aren't being cleaned up that we're supposed to, been taken care of. The Anthony Grant fumble against Minnesota, that guy made a good play, punched the ball out, right?
Yeah.
But the handoff to Gabe Ervin, that is inexcusable.
Handoff was bad.
I know Nebraska didn't have 11 fumbles in the game, but every fumble they had killed momentum or a good drive and gave Colorado a short field. And a good team took advantage of the bad mistakes. It seemed like
the place my mind goes right now is you wonder how different does that second half look if it's 0-0 going into halftime. You can't argue the fact that Colorado completely outplayed Nebraska. I think that Nebraska defense got tired and demoralized, but you do wonder if you don't have those mistakes before the end of the half, how different does that game look in the second half? I still think, as you said, Bill, Colorado was the better team today. I think they probably would have flexed their muscle a little bit in the second half. They seemed to figure some things out about the Husker defense, but the Husker defense wasn't the same salt unit that we saw in the first half even. You wonder if the momentum doesn't slip away from Nebraska in that moment. How
the momentum flipped when Tommy Hill, and there's a lot of blame to go around on 3rd down and long in the second half. But the momentum flipped on that 3rd and 10 for 40 yards that led to a touchdown. Nebraska got a 3-and-out to start the second half. You got the 57-yard run from Sims. It's 13-7. And then you get a short field. To your point, Bill, it's a 55-yard drive, and it's another 3rd down and long completion. I thought Nebraska's pass rush was good. You ended up with, 5 or 6 sacks and 10 tackles for loss. But you were on the field so long in the second half. Colorado actually got you a couple of times in the run game. Let's say this. Hunter is pretty talented. Sanders is a fun quarterback if he's not playing your team or if he goes to Colorado, if you're a Nebraska fan. I mean, it was kind of just an avalanche by that Buff offense. And to all of our points, Nebraska's just helping out. And you just wonder if it can get exercised at some point. You're coming home next week. You got Northern Illinois. That's a good thing, but it's week 2 right now.
Is it?
And what? Well, It better be if you're Matt Rule in this team. Okay, I got to ask the room, and we'll get to some more calls. 489-1240. Real Red Reaction brought to you by your friends at Lazari's. Read the scroll if you're streaming the show and get a large pie ordered today. At what point do you make any switches, fellas, on the offensive line? You're waiting for Teddy to come back at left tackle. And I know, Elijah, you mentioned and picked up on during the game that Lutoski got in at right guard for a little bit. Piper's one of the guys that you love his attitude. You love his effort in practice. You got to see it carry over from a mental standpoint to the game. And early on, speed of the game, he seems to be chasing whoever he's trying to block.
I mean, you turn it over to me in terms of what can be done on the offensive line.
I'm going to the room. We start with you and you go around the horn.
Pray. That's what you can do with that offensive line. These guys have shown you what they are through a couple of seasons of Husker football. Turner Corcoran, he's not cutting it as Nebraska's left tackle. I don't think he's cut out to be a tackle. I feel for the guy. He's been jerked all around through his Husker career, from left guard to right guard to left tackle to right tackle and everywhere in between. He's been jerked around, but the simple fact of the matter is he's not good enough to be a Power 5 offensive lineman at the moment. You look at Nuruddin, he sat out for a year. You're excited about what he could be. He hasn't been what you thought he could be, and at least Lutovsky seems to have taken a step. Ben Scott, I think, is what you wanted from him. He's a passable center in a Power 5 league. He's good enough. Ethan Piper has been rough, and you never know. Maybe he's being exposed a little bit by the guy that's next to him that's making him look worse than he is. And Ben Hart, to his credit, looks a hell of a lot better than he did over the past couple of seasons. He's made a jump, but it's one thing to have an offensive line that can run the ball when the defense isn't looking for it. It's another thing to have an offensive line that can run the football whenever the defense is putting 8 guys in the box and everyone and their mother in the stadium knows exactly what play is coming. That's going to be a run up the middle. I mean, that's what Nebraska is going to have to do. That's what Nebraska is going to try to do as the year goes on. It's what they're going to have to do because you don't trust Jeff Sims with the football in his hand, at least from a throwing point of view. And I don't think this offensive line, as it's shaped right now, is good enough that whenever defense puts 8 guys in the box and you look at them and say, hey, we're going to run the football here, we dare you to stop it, they're not going to be good enough to do that. That's not who they are right now. And you can take some pressure off of that if you had a passing game, but you don't have a passing game. And that's why I think Nebraska, there's a comment way back when, I'm not sure we'll be able to go find it. It essentially said Nebraska's got a 9-win defense and a 2-win offense. And that's what it feels like right now. The defense is good enough to win you games. The offense is bad enough to lose you more.
Great comment, and that's what it feels like. Guys, follow in on the offensive line. Is Nebraska 0-2 if Casey Thompson's still here? Because that's a popular question mark on Twitter and in email and on in some of the other. Just following some Nebraska fans exiting Folsom Field, you know, the palms are pointed towards the sky. You know, what's up with the offense now? To the offensive line's detriment, they're still not great at pass protection, and Casey and a running quarterback. What little success you've had, fellas, has been with your quarterback's legs.
I'm not as down on the offensive line. I think there's just a total. I don't want to say a total problem here, but you know, if you're not a threat to pass, yeah, you can load up 8. You know, if the defense isn't fearing what Jeff Sims can do through the passing game, yeah, they're going to load up 8. They're going to come after him, and they're going to get some sacks, or they're going to hit whoever gets the ball at the line of scrimmage. But as soon as they have some confidence, or at least think that Nebraska has a threat to pass the ball with some type of efficiency, then they're going to back that off. I'm not as down on the offensive line. There were a lot of 5 and 6 and 8-yard games. There were a lot of 1 and 2 yard games too, but that happened. But I'm not as down on that offensive line as everybody is. They do need to get some depth. They do need Teddy back. I think that's critical. If nothing else, just to have another body out there, you know. But I just think it's a matter of if defenses know that Jeff Sims isn't a threat to consistently and efficiently throw the ball and move the ball for Nebraska. He might pop one. He had a couple of nice passes to what did Gus Johnson call him today? Bo Riker. Yeah. You know, Bo Riker.
Bokercher.
The same team, and you mispronounce Bo Riker. But Fedoni made a nice catch. Billy Camp made a nice catch. They had to make nice catches, right? But Nebraska is not a threat, so you can load up against that offensive line. But I think that's. I don't think that's as bad a unit as everybody thinks it is.
Well, the problem that I had coming out, and Will, I think we either have a rule or a phone call to get to it. The problem is that Colorado defense through 2 games, maybe we're way off here, but they gave up more rushing yards to a TCU team last week that didn't even commit to the run. Like, I don't think Colorado's defense is built to be one of those. I mean, Nebraska's defense right now is built to stop the run. They do that very well. I don't think Colorado's defense is. And that's where my concern with the offensive line comes in that, yeah, you were able to pop some runs today. You were able to average 5.4 yards per carry today, but you're not going up against a stingy running defense. What are you going to do whenever those stingy running defenses show up to your doorstep in November and you don't have a passing game that you can turn to because the offensive line isn't there? And that's what concerns me about the offensive line right now is Nebraska going to get shut out once November rolls around if the only thing they have is a rushing attack. I don't think the offensive line is good enough that once you get 5-6 games on film and everyone knows that Nebraska can't pass the ball, what are they going to be able to do against that?
Guys, we have a few calls to get to. We got John on the line right now.
John, welcome into Real Red. Go ahead.
I'm 70. I'm 70. I've been a fan for 78 years. The last 20 years have given me 4 doctorates on how to tell what's going on at Nebraska. I don't blame the players one bit. I do know they're getting ready to put the next picture of the failed coach up next to Scott Frost. I'm very disappointed.
John, you've called in for 2 decades, and after each misstep, I think you're a little premature on Rule, dude. I know it's not a great start. I know they're 0-2. They've messed up on Sims so far. Okay, but let's not punt Rule yet, dude. You're real too quick to pull the trigger on that.
Well, I've seen the same thing for 20 years. 20 years. I've been a fan for 78 years. And I may not be a sportscaster or a coach, but I do look at how the things are pulling out right now. The players are doing the best they can. The coaches aren't. I'm very disappointed. And as you just said, it's going to be a long, long fall.
So when if Nebraska gets to 6-6 this year, John, are you calling us back in November saying how much you love Rule?
No, I'm not. I'm saying I don't like the way he's coaching. I'm going to say for 20 years, I have no apologies to make to the people that are the talking heads on radio, television, and in the newspapers. You guys were all wrong and didn't get it. And you guys are part of the problem, along with our chancellors, our regents, our university president. We have dropped the ball at Nebraska. And being a Nebraska fan, I am very tired of the bad things that have gone on with the media and the university and the choices they made. I feel sorry for the players because they're doing the best they can with a poor coaching staff. That's all I have to say. Have a good day.
Fair enough, John.
Next up, guys, we got Tex. We got Tex on the line.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys.
Go for it.
Bill, hey. I don't think I can follow up quite like John can, but all I can say is I'm 16 days post knee replacement, and my new knee is doing about as well as the Nebraska offense is right now. That's all I've got.
All right.
Thanks for the phone call, Tex. 489-1240. Listen, John has been a loyal listener and caller to a lot of Nebraska outlets, and he's pissed, and a lot of Nebraska fans are ticked off, and they have email in from Brett. Bleep this John guy was his response. But no, I mean, John wants to lead with his chin that I knew it. I know that it's going to be a failure. I got nothing for you with the past hires. He's not wrong with choices that have been made. I think it's too soon to go all in, and he can be upset about the coaching. Listen, Rule didn't say, okay, fumble 2 snaps and throw a pick. You got to call plays and hope they work.
But the problem is that Rule did pick that quarterback. That was your anointed one you brought here in the transfer portal. That's the guy that you gave every opportunity to start over Casey Thompson. That's the guy that at the end of spring you had in mind whenever you looked at Casey Thompson, his dad, and said, if I were you, I would transfer. And I don't want to keep
and
on bringing that up.
if you keep riding with Sims and he keeps doing this and you keep playing him, then yeah, John's right. You have other options. You have other development at quarterback. It's time to make a move at quarterback if it doesn't improve. Or have you seen enough? That's what we're getting at. The quarterback.
You're going to see a lot more. I mean, that's again.
History says yes.
I mean, Heinrich Haarberg is a young quarterback who's been around here a long time. Chuba, is that what Joel Klatt called him? Chuba Purdy, has been around a long time. But if they had, they'd be the starters. They would have gotten more playing time. I am a little surprised that they didn't sit Jeff Sims down maybe in the second quarter and say, look, let's just calm down a little bit. Let's get settled, and let's give you a press box view of this. We'll get you back out there. But maybe to settle him down, back out there, make another mistake, back out there, make another mistake, back out there, make another mistake. Look, Casey Thompson was a very nice quarterback and is off to a nice start at whatever Florida institution he has found a home in with a former coach in Tom Herman. But he also had the blessings of Trey Palmer, where it was just go as far as you can, as fast as you can, and I will throw it to you, and there you go. So he had one of the greatest in Nebraska football history for one season, and a guy who made an NFL roster and my fantasy league roster. Nebraska doesn't have that, right? They've got injuries with Castaneda out. They've got some solid young receivers that I guess they would like to redshirt. Casey Thompson he's gone, but he also had the benefit of Trey Palmer last year, and he doesn't now. And I don't know what more to say other than if Heinrich Haarberg was better than Jeff Sims, he'd be out there more.
Well, and Bill, I'm not going to sit here and say that Casey Thompson was going to be the starter in this offense this year. And maybe it's just the way of college football now that competition, especially the quarterback position, is going to happen. But it's the fact that you sat down with a guy that was going to bring competition to your room. It was going to be a guy you could turn to in a game like this whenever Jeff Sims isn't cutting it and Jeff Sims is turning the ball over. And you're telling him, hey, you know what, man? Maybe it's best for you to get out. That's where I come from here. That's what worries me. And there's a funny comment in here that I wanted to get to.
The judgment on who you're going to roll with, what you want to roll with, the quarterback.
Yeah. But the funny comment I saw was from Grace, and he says, Rule also said that Sims is an NFL-level quarterback, and given Rule's league, it makes total sense.
Grayson off the top rope. I love it.
Guys, we have Gary on the line.
Gary, thanks for calling. Go for it.
Hey, I'm with Will earlier. I am pissed off. Okay, Jeff Sims is not the answer. He is clearly not the answer. With Casey Thompson on this team and that defense, you guys are 2-0. Because the defense is legit, the running back is legit. I mean, somebody needs to ask Rule next week the hard questions, not no pillow questions. And what is it going to take? How many turnovers is it going to take for them to pull Jeff Sims?
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks for the phone call, Gary. Wow.
I don't deny that. I said at the beginning, my first comment was I don't remember my first comment now. But I've lost it. I was so upset with myself.
It's all right, Bill. Take a breath, brother.
Rewind the show. Rewind it and play my first comment about Jeff Sims.
Because this show got off to a great start. It was wonderful with all the technical difficulties and devices melting. God love you all for carrying the water on this so we got situated.
I do have Rule's press conference whenever you guys want to go to that.
I do want to hear that.
Let's roll Rule.
Okay, here's Matt Rule.
And a lot of credit to Coach Sanders and his team. They played well today. As I was walking off the field, one of their longtime coaches who I've coached against many times, he said, hey, Coach, uncharacteristic of your teams, you have that many turnovers and give so many plays away. I think 17 points off turnovers. And that's the same thing as last week. So, I'll be honest, I really think we're better than we're showing. But what does that mean? That's just words. So, I told the team, we're gonna get this right. I'm going to get this right. We'll get the offense right. We'll get the turnovers right. I thought the defense played really hard and well for long stretches, and then eventually just kind of wore out. But I thought we were able to control the line of scrimmage some with some power running game in the first half, but had the ball in the red zone twice. and yet again came away with no points. So really the same tale as last week, just versus probably a little bit more explosive offense that got away with, the game got away from us.
What do you know about Jeff right now? And I guess just how do you evaluate his day?
I don't know. I don't know anything other than, they said, hey, look, maybe like a high ankle, and then he wanted to go back in. I didn't see any really point of putting him in there, Obviously, we, all of us have to take care of the ball better. It's two places that we've been that have been pretty loud. And so some of our, speed, sweep, snap time, we've never had those issues before. We hit one. We were going to go we weren't going to kick a field goal. We were going to go for it on fourth down. We had it lined up third down, fourth down. Hey, we're going to pound the football here. We felt like we were starting to control the line of scrimmage, but the silent cadences and the gun with the motion really hurt us and kind of took some of that away from us. Some of the communication up front, some of the big hits in the background, the communication of what the play was. So I really have to do a deeper dive to look into sort of everything that happened. But, Jeff will be the first guy to say, well, we can't have that many turnovers, especially down in the red zone where they are. And, we turned the ball over twice inside our own 30, which led to points. So again, that's why I say, I know everyone's going to be, as they should, upset and panicked and all those things. We're better than we're showing. But that's just words, and we have to put that into action.
Heinrich was warming late in the first half before halftime, and then Jeff went back out and then went back out again after halftime. What was your thought process in putting Jeff back in this situation?
There was never a conversation about taking Heinrich out. Even with the cadences, I can't tell you yet. Yeah, there's never thought of putting Heinrich in. We have some plays for him, that we were going to potentially utilize. So he might have been getting ready for one of those things. I think, for me, I won't be able to really comment, truly, because it's such a big deal to comment on the quarterback, right? So we know globally it's too many turnovers, but in terms of what exactly went wrong, was the center late with the snap, was the motion. I have to go back and look at those things. And then we had some good drives. You had a penalty all of a sudden, it had nothing to do with the quarterback. So, for us, I think if you look at the year so far, I think we've taken one ball away, right? And we've two now right at the end of that game, but so we're -6, and that is sort of the story that we've been trying to fix, and so I haven't gotten it fixed yet, and I'm going to keep doing it keep working on it until we get it fixed.
And, even with all this had to happen in the first half, you score right out of the gate. In the second half, you get a stop, you're right there. How big was that third down play that was deep and then they go on and score? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, they had 3 big plays in the second half on third downs, right? One, they ran by us in zero coverage. We brought a max blitz. One was that play where they kind of scrambled around. I mean, a lot of credit to Shador. I mean, he's running around making plays back there. And they threw the ball down the sideline, and then one was a run. And so those plays really tilted the field. And, we're not getting those same explosive plays. So I think, the great thing about the defense, they're going to go back and, put the hat on their head and see what they can do better. I thought we had some really good things early on, getting some pressure, dropping out, not getting pressure. And we've had a chance to get a hit. That's the type of game you need to get your hand on the ball, pick a ball off and run it, turn it back. We had some chances. So, we'll just keep getting better.
Do you think that the nerves of the team at this point is a little jangly because of the road games and the execution on meshes and the handoffs and things like that?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Sam. I think we're a good team. I really do. I think offensively we're just kind of like a little bit of a shaky starting team. I mean, and obviously, the last 2 times being on the road, I mean, they're, the wristband, and then sometimes we have to call a timeout because we're a little bit nervous about, was this the right personnel? So, I mean, Sat's doing. I feel like I listen to it. Sat's doing the right thing, getting the right plays and getting the right play calls in, and just sometimes from the signaler to there, we're having little things everywhere, right? And so that's what I have to get fixed. I have to go back now and look and just again, you come in with a certain identity that you want. Hey, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And then I think guys have to settle down. At the very end of the game, we ran a little speed option, pitched it to Ramir. He got about 10, 12 yards. We called that same play in the first half versus the same defense and didn't pitch it. You know what I mean? And so the plays are there. And so that's why, you won't get from me a sense of panic, oh my gosh. It's more like, hey, I've got to get this team just to continue to just keep a little bit better. So I watch a lot. I'm like, hey, you ready to do this for another week with me? And they're like, yeah. So that's why, I stand here saying, we'll get it right. I mean, we'll get it right. But yeah, I think that's a really good observation. That's exactly how I feel.
The defense was dominant in the first quarter. What did Colorado do, if they did anything differently, that got their offense rolling?
Yeah, I think we wore down, but I don't want to take any credit away from them. I thought that they made an adjustment and they just threw a couple balls up on third down that hurt us, and the screen game. They went to the screen game because we were kind of showing max splits, and even when we were dropping out underneath it, they did a good job of going and getting on guys. So, that was one of those games where we kind of needed to pick a ball off or something and get the ball to the offense and get something going. Cause it was 13-7, 14-7, even the final score, we're kind of going for it on fourth down and all those things. I'm always going to play to win. I'm not going to play to not win, but I think Sean Lewis is a great offensive coordinator. They got a ton of skill. They got a great young quarterback. I think probably the screen game was the thing that, helped them in the second half.
Take one more for Coach. It's a small thing that the 3rd and 18 in the first half, like Jeff runs out of bounds. Were you guys trying to score in that moment? You were trying to run the clock so they didn't have any timeouts left?
Yeah. Just trying to go back to the whole synchronization. I don't want to make sure I upset, but that's one that we're hoping the quarterback doesn't go out of bounds. It's kind of an interior, if he's going to run, he's scrambling around. We're hoping that we stay in bounds to keep the clock moving. That's a lot to put on. The quarterback trying to make a play. It's a lot to put on him. But we were trying to go down and score. Our whole thing there in that situation was get the first down and then take off, get into no huddle and go, and just some plays got behind us. So I think in the coming weeks you'll see. I hope you'll see the offense really take some steps. I think the defense is right, kind of where it needs. It's hard to say that at that point. Don't get me wrong. We have a lot of steps to take on defense, but really on offense, we need to make some steps moving forward. I'm happy to answer anything else. After a game like that, I should answer everything that you guys ask.
On the fumbles, do you view and address it differently when I think all of them weren't really what Colorado was doing, but more execution instead?
Yeah, I think part of it's, to Sam's point, going back and figuring out what it was. Is it the cadence? Is it the sound? And then, we're pretty simple, right? We're still in field goal range, the ball's on the ground. We just want to jive on the ball, not try to pick it up with one hand. So I think we have a team that wants to win so badly. Sometimes they're doing things that we're not really wanting them to do. And I think it's out of care. It's not out of not care. These guys really care. Even on the sideline, that was tough at the end to sit there and go through that. And I thought they just battled to the end. So, we try to address everything, not emotionally, just, hey, this is this. But it's way too many ball handling issues for the first 2 games. There's just no way to get around it. And that falls squarely on my shoulders. It doesn't fall on anybody else.
You mentioned the timing of the turnovers, both at the spots on the field and at the time in the game. How did you see your guys react mentally from, just the way things seem to be going against them in that way?
Yeah, I thought the defense came out on the first one and played inspired, held them to a field goal. You look at the first half, I walked in the locker room, I was like, it was one play. They made one play against us in the first half. And that's not to take anything away. Defense played well. They hit the nice cross country for the touchdown. We call that cross country across the field. They hit that on us, and we just didn't communicate great. Didn't get the call. So I didn't think they panicked. But when you kind of have that uneasiness that Sam was talking about to try to settle down, you need some success sometimes early to kind of settle down into a rhythm, and we just haven't had that yet.
Coach, this is going to be a really big game, whether or not Coach Sanders came here when it was on your schedule. CU, Nebraska rivalry. What was the atmosphere like, and how did it affect you on the sidelines or your players?
I don't think the atmosphere affected us. I thought it was a great college football experience. That's what you come to the University of Nebraska for games like that. We think every game's a big game that we play in. And so, they had, we know when we go on the road, there's always going to be a packed crowd. There's a packed crowd at Minnesota. There's a packed crowd here today. And I'm sure when we go on the road next, there'll be a packed crowd.
It's not your message, Coach, just with an 0-2 start, knowing that you've had such big games to open the year. How do you kind of get your guys to flush this 0-2 start, knowing the magnitude of what these first 2 games were?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what I said to them. I said, if number one, we'll get it corrected if we stick together, which I know we will. We'll get it corrected. If there's any sliver of hope, if there's anything that's good, it's that in these moments where we're having 4 turnovers or the game gets away from us, the guys get to see, coaches that they didn't really sign up to play for, right? Players sometimes they didn't even sign up to play with. They get to see how we all react. And they get to see that, I'm going to be the same guy every day. I'm going to take ownership of the things I can control and try to get better. So I hope that we go closer. And I hope this is the type of thing that teaches our guys what wins football games. Can't turn the ball over and win. We grow closer as a team and closer as a program. And I recognize that there's going to be things said and all that, but we will absolutely improve from this.
Is Heinrich the defined number 2 quarterback?
Yeah. Chubb has been dealing with just, he had like a tweaked a little something, and so he's kind of not purely himself. So Heinrich's, they were kind of together at one point, and then about a week and a half ago, good enough to practice, but just can't really truly be himself. And so, he went in once Heinrich went down, but we would go with Heinrich as the number 2.
So Jeff only had 2 carries early on. Here to week 1, 19 carries. Was that just him taking what the defense was giving him? Was that a strategy going in to not have him run as much early on?
Yeah, they weren't going to let us run him as much. They were running, they were kind of mischarging. It felt like from the field. I had to go back and look at it, but bring in the free safety when they thought we were in that play. But I thought early on, we had 75 yards rushing in the first half. We were handling the ball off the gate and getting some good runs. I kept thinking like if we could stay on the field, if we didn't have those turnovers, the dam would break, and that was kind of our game plan, keep them off the field. So once we had the second half, it was a little bit further behind. We knew we'd have to open up a little bit with him running it.
How much of what you wanted to do coming in with your game plan dealt with tempo and limiting possessions, controlling the pace?
Yeah, we knew versus their offense that we were going to have to, try to control the line of scrimmage. And we just thought the best way for us moving the ball was for us to be physical, for us to be downhill, for us to run the ball. I thought had we stayed on the field, and not had those penalties and converted some scores down in the red zone, that would have been a little bit more. Just unfortunately kind of got a little bit away from us. My wife will come to every press conference after the game, so she's not here. She's not here any other reason other than she likes to make sure I know she loves me no matter what.
How's the machine?
I don't know. I don't know anything about the shade right now. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
That's Matt Rule, his post-game press conference, and took all the questions and is being matter of fact, but also is understanding that this is going to take more than 2 games to be the product that needs to be. And he touched on the turnovers. He touched on the quarterback situation. He touched on the offensive line. And Bill, what you've touched on, same with you, Elijah, in those key moments of the game, you just don't know how it would have turned out had you not committed some self-inflicted harm.
Well, if that's a close game late, I do think we probably have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen. We have a 5-year sample size, but what would happen in a close game in the fourth quarter. Let's be clear about that. And that's kind of the point I was going to make is
under Rule or under the last 5 seasons, the sample size, this team versus this staff, right?
And yeah, you could say that if I think you saw something different than last week. I think until they prove that they are different than they were in years past, you're going to have to assume that it is more of the same, and more of the same can be expected. And I do think you have to look back at something I said previously before we got to Rule, and that's that Nebraska didn't have transfer portal hit rate. And that's the way of college football now if you want to rebuild a roster quickly. The guys that Nebraska is counting on are guys that have been here for the past couple of seasons that we can all agree we're not a great football team. I think a lot of people made light of the fact that, Matt Rule has an offseason to change these guys. He's got a year to instill his product. And simply put, it doesn't look all that different. And that's why I'm not out on Matt Rule just yet. I'm disappointed with what I've seen through the first 2 games, for sure. The offense has looked a lot worse than I've expected. There's been a lot more self-inflicted mistakes than I expected. But it is still, not to say this, I don't think Rule would ever say this, it is still a group of guys that the last staff recruited and the last staff brought together and the last staff developed. It's going to take some time to get this right. And that's why I'm not out on Rule just yet. I'm clearly not encouraged by what I have seen thus far, but it took Matt Rule at least a year at his other 2 stops as well to get things right, to get his guys in and to get his guys ready. And if Nebraska's not going to have the transfer portal guys, they're going to play a lot. I'm talking Jeff Sims. I'm talking Billy Kemp. I'm talking MJ Sherman. I'm talking, pretty much every guy that was brought in to be a transfer portal guy that could play right away. Chief Borders, Elijah Judy. None of these guys have lived up to the expectations or what was needed from them in order for this team to make a jump. And right now we're looking at last season 2.0. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done with this program. I do fully believe that this team will get better as the year goes on, but simply put, there's not a very good football team. And they're making things a lot harder on themselves by shooting themselves in the foot constantly.
2.0 or 20.0?
Great point.
Look, if this Colorado dynamic with the transfer portal is different than anybody else has been able to do because of Deion Sanders' unique and iconic personality. Nobody else that I can think of in Moss has hit the transfer portal with an early season hit rate like this, okay? And if those guys were all hitting, they would never have transferred. right? Maybe Billy Camp, at Virginia, but for the most part, if you leave one situation, it's because something didn't go right where you were, or you're a grad transfer and you've got an extra year of eligibility, whatever the case might be. So you left for a reason, and you're trying to find a place to go play. And Nebraska brought them in, and a lot of them come in with some, nice collegiate pedigrees, if you will. Florida, Texas A&M, Virginia, Georgia Tech, Power 5 football programs.
Georgia,
correct, yeah. So, it's not as though they plucked guys away from smaller schools, although Samari Toure worked out coming from Montana. But the one thing I really have a hard time accepting is when people say, well, Matt Rule at his first 2 college stops at Temple and Baylor, it was the first year won 1 game, the next year won a couple of games, and then things got good. Look, the situation at Nebraska should not be compared to the situations that he took over at Temple. Temple didn't even know they had a football program other than Paul Palmer in the 1980s, right? I mean, it's the dregs of college football. And he took over and he built them up. That's great. It's an impressive job that he did, and it landed in the Baylor job. Baylor was in the midst of one of the great controversies in college football history, and dare I say, one of the great controversies in college sports history, except for the one that Baylor basketball had with Dave Bliss. So the fact that those programs were in such dire straits, I mean, they're talking about shutting down the Baylor football program when he took that over. Nebraska's had a couple of bad seasons, or 20. It's not the same situation to say, well, that's just the way Matt Rule does it, that there's nothing there, and he builds it up with matchsticks and toothpicks, and then he puts bricks in, and by year 3 or 4, Nebraska should already have a foundation in place. They've got a palatial estate down there. They've got every bit as much money as everybody else does, and the athletes that are in here, for the most part, people have been pretty excited when they signed on the dotted line because we all love recruiting. So they've got players, they've got athletes. Maybe they've been poorly coached the last couple of years, which I tend to believe is the case. But Matt Rule should not be able, and people should not give the excuse that, well, that's just the way it goes. You win 1, then you win 2, and then you win 11. This should still be a 6-win bowl-bound team. Okay, if the talent that Nebraska's recruited over the years that everybody's excited about in December and February is good enough to be recruited by the school, then they should have coached them up and be ready to play. And if those guys are already good, then Matt Rule should have good players already on campus that he can mold them into being a bowl-bound football team. I believe that defense is still good enough to do that. I think that defense is as good as advertised. I think the 3-3-5 does what it's supposed to do. And what I've said all along, see ball, hit ball, controlled violence, and athleticism. Know your angles and go get them. I think that defense can get it done.
No, totally agree with you on the defense.
And that's the Matt Rule plan. 1 win, and then 2, and then we'll be good. No.
Needs to be more than that this year, and we'll see if Nebraska can climb uphill with an 0-2 start. 489-1240 Real Red Reaction, powered by your friends at Lazari's. See the crawl. Dial them up for a pizza today. Elijah Herbal. I see your head peeking up over the booth. We'd be outdoors if we'd have been smart enough to bring a tent. We didn't. And Bill Dolman, Will Wilson, Chris Schmidt. You have Grayson chiming in. That was up for a moment and then gone. If someone is used to accelerating in minivans like Temple, don't be surprised if they have issues changing gears quickly in a sports car, no matter how fast, how far past the heyday it is. This goes down to judgment, and Elijah, to something you touched on with the portal hit rate, and to kind of echo what Bill said on the Dion effect with the portal. And you had some kids playing at Jackson State that are clearly Division I good, Power 5 good. You go take a gamble to maybe try and win now or win more early, thinking, okay, I can fix/change someone's cast off. Kenneth Walker, let's say, as an example, at Wake Forest, goes to Michigan State 2 years ago. They won 11 games. That's a monster hit. Right now, Aledge has nailed it, and that is the guys you brought in you thought you'd get more from with a change of scenery, or they'd be better than their past stops, haven't been doing it. And it starts with your quarterback, and that is going to be it. You've put up 10 points on the road in Minneapolis. You put up 14 today, 7 when it mattered, when the game was still within reach. And your defense in almost in one full game, if we take 2 halves, we'll say 3 quarters and 10 minutes against Minnesota. And I'd say about 3 quarters in this ball game has played at top 10 level good, right? They have done everything they've been asked except score, except get a turnover. And that's not quite the hat trick. If I told the room that you'd have 8 sacks and 11 TFLs, did you think Nebraska would have won today?
Yes.
Yeah. Especially against that offense with the speed that it has and the tempo that it wants to play with. I thought that was an incredibly impressive performance by 25 guys again.
Guys, we
also,
got Bruce.
You held Colorado 33 carries, 58 yards. Your job was to make the Buffs one-dimensional. You kind of did, and it didn't matter, despite the sacks and TFLs. What'd you say, Will?
Yeah, we got Bruce on the line.
Bruce, thanks for hanging on. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I guess my big thing is, Sims continues to keep making these mistakes, and I get it. But I believe this is his 25th time starting. You would think this guy, would pick it up after last week. And it's the same old stuff with this guy. And I'm not blaming everything on you, but man, I've been a fan of this team for a long time, and I'm embarrassed the way that we're playing on offense. Our defense can only do so much. And
that's fair.
Until, we can get the guys. I don't know what kind of quarterback, rules used in the past, but I really wish we would have kept Thompson. And I get it. Thompson is not a runner. He was a passer, but this guy that we have is a running back. He's not a QB. He's not good. And I hate to say that about a player, but he's just not good. And I thank you guys for taking my call.
Hey, Bruce,
yeah, and I'm with you, Bruce. At this point, I said it after last week, and I said maybe he can change my opinion on this. But after this week, he has shown you what he is through, as you said, 25 games. And what he is over 1 interception per game. He's turnovers. He's inefficient as a passer. But, yeah, he's dynamic as a runner. He's shown you what he is. And what we've seen thus far from Nebraska this year is that is not good enough to lead this Husker offense. The Husker offense does not have enough talent around him to be able to pick up a quarterback that is built in that way. And maybe this is Rule's ideal quarterback. Maybe this is the quarterback he wants to run his offense. But the offense that he has right now is not the offense that has the amount of talent that I think you need to make it work. Like, offensive line, not good enough, as we said earlier, to be a team that whenever the defense knows you're going to run the football, can run the football. The wide receivers aren't good enough to get open and give your running threat quarterback an easy throw to make. You're putting a lot on Jeff Sims' shoulders, and he's showing you that what he was at Georgia Tech is just what he is.
Got to throw this up here. Comment from David. About 8 million people watched on TV, and Nebraska looked bad. You can't overturn that kind of publicity. Guys, what do you think of the optics? 36 to 14, and it was a lot of big play, wild play by Colorado. You saw good from the Nebraska defense. You saw real bad again from the Nebraska offense with turnovers. What's the I guess the association right now nationally with Nebraska on this stage. We talked about the opportunity with this game for Nebraska. We talked about the moment and the ability to kind of come steal some of the thunder. Well, Nebraska was sloppy, self-inflicting, and left their defense out there to die. Moving forward, is it how damning is this loss?
Well, if you
quickly,
watch,
I got to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Bill, quickly, I just want to ask. I was pretty focused on the game up in the press box. Did anything happen around 12:15 Central Time? Because if people shut the game off at 12:15, about 5 minutes left to go in the first half, they probably thought that Nebraska team looked awesome.
Well, my point was going to be, or is that unless you were watching the game to watch Nebraska, you had no idea that Nebraska was on the field other than by looking at the graphic, because that was the prime time show. It was all Dion. I don't think they mentioned Matt Rule. In fact, I think I even wrote it down. They didn't mention Matt Rule or show Matt Rule until late in the first quarter, and then they interviewed him after the first quarter, which was nice. But it was as if Nebraska wasn't even on. I mean, to be honest with you, wasn't on the field. It was all about what Colorado wasn't doing offensively. It was what Colorado, took advantage of, and Nebraska gave away. But this was if you ask me, a glorified 3-hour Deion Sanders, Colorado football
infomercial.
I mean, that's what Nebraska. It's like when they would, you put Nebraska on the field. Let's go back, and the game wasn't played. Okay, but I can just remember when Scott Frost took over at Nebraska, and Fox's game of the night that Saturday night was Nebraska against Akron. Why? Because they just wanted to show Nebraska and Scott Frost. That was it. Didn't matter who the opponent was. This was going to be. Unfortunately, the weather happened. We didn't see the game. That's what this game seemed to me. They played it up like this is Michigan, Ohio State, and USC. I mean, it could add the Iron Bowl. I still don't think this rivalry matches anything like Nebraska, Oklahoma, or those aforementioned. But for the most part, this was the Colorado football show. It wasn't. They didn't talk about Nebraska hardly at all, or Matt Rule, other than at the very end. So it wasn't 8 million people bad publicity about Nebraska. It was, look how great Colorado. I mean, Joel Klatt said this is the biggest story in sports right now, all of sports right now. Okay. Nebraska got buried in an avalanche of Colorado love.
Guys, I want to go here and 489-1240, 489-1240, Real Red Reaction here on KFOR, KFORnow.com, powered by your friends at Lazari's, 4701 Old Shady. Big thanks to Lazari's, and a big thanks to our friends at Sauter Heyman helping power the road shows. 0-2 on the road. Not their fault. It's more me than anything else. I'm interested moving forward what you do now at quarterback. Elijah, Bill, Will, turnovers can't keep happening. Is what you have behind and want to do offensively doable with other options? They presumably are playing their best guy, their best athlete, their best talent. It's not working out because of the decisions and plays he's not making. He's not taking care of the football. He's costing field position. He's costing momentum, the offense that he's leading. So do you make a switch, and does it go from bad to worse? And, as Clark Griswold once said, worse, we're at the 7th level of hell. You walk through a buff fan base right now that are all sorts of geared up. I mean, this is Nebraska fans' hell right now, getting worked in Boulder and hearing about it for 24 hours. So what do you do now if you're Nebraska on offense? Rule said they're going to get things cleaned up. You can't keep turning the football over. They got to get with Sat. They got to figure out what is doable. Taking care of the football is doable. You're supposed to do that. You can fix turnovers, supposedly, but they didn't get fixed. They got worse, and then your defense got slow bled in the second half.
I think we're screwed because if you look at Chubba and Harburg, I don't know enough from them, but I think I've seen enough to where
you've seen enough to make a change if you thought it'd work, right?
Yeah, but I'm not sure it would work. I need to see more from them. I kind of want to see what Sims can do against a team not Power 5. Maybe it's easier for him. I don't know. But I'm not confident that we have anybody behind Sims that could be a lot better.
I think this was the point I was going to make in the last segment when I had an age moment, but and I bring it up again, and that's what I did say at the beginning. I've not seen back-to-back games like this out of a Nebraska quarterback maybe since Mark Maurer in the 1981 season, Mike Grant, and I think there was somebody else behind Mike Grant in 1992. But those two seasons, there was a sophomore out of Fort Worth, Texas, that was on the bench, and people thought we really ought to play this Turner Gill guy. We got him away from Oklahoma, and maybe we ought to give him a chance. And I think in his first start, he beat Auburn at Memorial Stadium or something. And then Tommy Frazier, everybody was excited about Tommy Frazier being on the bench. Why not give it a shot? And he made that start down in Columbia and beat Missouri. But if you do, Will, your point may be harsh, but there's not somebody right now that people are excited about that they could say that's our guy. They're excited about a kid who's coaching or quarterbacking at Bellevue West, right? And he's not going to be the guy next year. So what is the quarterback situation at Nebraska, not just for week 3, but looking ahead, that it's a problem. It is a problem. I think if they had the answer, they would have gone to it already. They just got to get this guy better and make him play safe. I don't think they can do anything that's going to put the game in the hands of a quarterback to win it, at least not right now.
I'm going to throw this. Go ahead.
Well, guys, I've just been doing some research over here while you guys have been talking, and I was looking at the recruiting class rankings. I think the savior at quarterback might be an Idaho kid, class of 2025, a quarterback. His name is Zeke Martinez, because with a last name like that, he deserves to be Nebraska's starting quarterback, right?
Because guys that have played with that last name at Nebraska don't have turnover problems.
I didn't
think about that, but
yeah, I look, and people get excited about recruiting every year, but you just never know what you're going to get. And it was great to bring in Heinrich Harburg. You would think after 3 seasons that maybe he would be more of a ready number 2. I was surprised when they did mention today. I'd forgotten. Chubba Purdy was a 4-star quarterback. Everybody wanted him. Everybody wants a 4-star. He went to Florida State. That's a pretty high profile guy. And he's number 3 quarterback.
He was, and he didn't win a job, and he transferred. And I mean, he has the presumable tools, right? And Brian has a good point. And I asked you about this, Elijah, in the press box when I was thinking about Thompson. But how would Smothers look? How would Smothers look in this offense?
I like Logan Smothers. I don't.
We all like Logan,
right? But I don't know. Thompson didn't play in the spring because of shoulder injury, so they never got a good look at what he could do in Matt Rule's offense. And I think that probably was he felt like I'm never going to get a chance in the fall. So
I'm gonna run this audio up to my microphone on Twitter. It's from Shedeur Sanders.
Yep, this is good.
When we talk about it being personal, where did that come from? Was it manufactured? Talking with some folks in the Colorado program, there wasn't a lot of talk during practice about Nebraska. It was more business-like. They were focused because of all of these transfers. They have a number of upperclassmen, so they're not wowed by this moment or kind of starstruck. But this is Shedeur talking about the air quote disrespect that Nebraska and their coach said about my pops. Maybe. This isn't going to work. Well, I'll try and send it to you, Will.
Yep, that's perfect.
And we'll see if you can't get the audio on. So we'll have some post-game from Shedeur Sanders on the disrespect part. But, hey, Colorado's 2-0, and we're walking back here from Folsom Field, and you've got Buff Fan with his phone out already looking ahead, right? It's, okay, Oregon's on the way, USC's on the way, Oregon State. A lot of money on the 100-1 shot of Colorado winning the national championship at a monster payout. I think Colorado will get dismantled a couple of times this year, but they have done the improbable, and that's start 2-0. They've been really, really impressive with Deion's son at quarterback, some of those skill guys. And the kid they got out of Kansas, the running back I really like him. He had a little bit of Le'Veon Bell to him in that delay run in that third quarter that popped for 34s. They didn't run it well, but they ran it just enough, I guess, to be dangerous.
Wasn't he somebody they flipped? Wasn't he going to Notre
Yeah,
Dame?
he's going to Notre Dame. Notre Dame had him.
Yeah.
Edwards, really good guy. I want to circle back to some of the, not a lot of positives today, but I really liked how dialed in Nebraska was in the open field with their tackling. I liked how Nebraska was dialed in defensively with some of the recognition. Colorado went for it on fourth down to kind of try and put it away, and Nebraska held firm before the third down. It was like I was watching a Fiesta Bowl, 3rd and 15 debacles. For the most part, though, Nebraska did really well in putting Colorado in some tough positions. Just a couple of busts with new personnel on the field that Colorado targeted. 489-1240 can dial up here. Real Red Reaction. A few more minutes. We'll keep going. Go ahead.
I do have that audio you wanted to play.
Sure. Let's do that.
Here is Shedeur Sanders.
Shedeur Sanders. And we're not hearing it over the stream.
Oh. Well. Looks like I don't know why that's happening.
Well, let's just get the quote for you. The quote from Shedeur Sanders, the coach said a lot of things about my pops, about the program, but now he want to act nice. I don't respect that. That you're quoting from Shedeur Sanders on Matt Rule and why this game was personal for the Colorado football team.
I don't remember anything being.
It's what set Wilbon off about the cameras, the insinuation that, hey, I'm not a guy that has to be on camera. Colorado took that as a shot at them because of this Prime documentary and cameras all over the Buff program. That's they wanted to make it something.
Yeah,
and they felt it was disrespectful.
That is so blown up. They were looking for something. I don't think Matt Rule, and I'm not trying to defend him at all, but that's the media mentality. That's what you have in cable television nowadays. It's all scripted. It's all, you got to come up with something to spice it up. I don't ever recall hearing Matt Rule say something that was derogatory toward Deion Sanders. Nothing that I listen to that stuff pretty carefully. And I think it's just, he's just saying, look, we don't need to have and then ironically, Nebraska's got cameras everywhere. They've got their Hard Knocks series and all of those things and the corn crib and all that they do with, putting Nebraska football out there in social media. But I don't recall Matt Rule saying anything derogatory that, it's just, we don't need to necessarily have cameras everywhere, something like that. But it wasn't like, we're not like Deion Sanders where you're such a narcissist that you have to have a camera following 24/7. That's not at all what was said. But that's just going to looking for something and somebody stirring something up. That's really disappointing. That's really disappointing.
And I know there are some Colorado fans here in the stream. I'm in the same boat as Bill here. If you that follow the Colorado Buffalo football team more than I do, if there's anything in particular that you can remember being said, drop a link in the chat. We'll see if we can find it. And it's not about if Matt Rule said anything. It's about how Colorado took some comments. They clearly had some bulletin board material for this week, according to what Shedeur said, based on what they think Matt Rule said this offseason. And, hey, sometimes in football, it's all about finding motivation. Whether or not something was directed at Coach Sanders is irrelevant. It's all about how a team takes it and how it gets presented to the football team. So clearly the Colorado football team had some motivation. I don't recall off the top of my head anything. I remember that one story a couple of months ago, about the cameras, that not being about how he operates. That wasn't directed at Sanders or the Colorado football program, at least from our point of view. If Colorado took it that way, they clearly did. there's an element of extra motivation for this game. I think you saw it in the second half. I think you saw how Colorado continued driving up and down Nebraska whenever the game was already ended. It's as simple as that. Colorado had bulletin board material. They used it to their advantage today. And sure, if they want to say it was personal to them, they found a reason to make it personal. Good for them.
489-1240. We'll go about 20 more minutes. Your chance to sound off. Real Red Reaction, powered by your friends at Lazari's. 489-1240. You can email Chris at HailVarsity.com. Will, do we need to take a commercial break? We've gone 2 hours.
Yeah, let's do that, and we'll come back and go a few more minutes, okay?
Yep. Get last call here the next 20 minutes, and we'll keep getting to as many of your comments on the stream as possible. Real Red Reaction on KFOR, KFORnow.com.
Contractors. We have been installing roofs all over southeastern Nebraska for 27 years and counting. We have customers in York, David City, Seward, Lincoln, and Beatrice, just to name a few. If you have experienced storm damage and need a new roof, contact us at 402-473-2975 or online at grclincoln.com. We treat your home as if it were our own. The athletic sale everybody has been asking for is going on now at Brown Shoe Fit. Get $15 off all regular price athletic shoes. From back-to-school shoes to your daily running shoes, Brown Shoe Fit has you covered for all your comfort needs. Enjoy brands like Brooks, New Balance, On Clouds, and Hoka, all $15 off, now through the end of September. Some exclusions may apply. See store for details. Brown Shoe Fit Lincoln, 66 and Q.
Serve Nebraska believes that volunteers are part of what makes Nebraska great. Each year, the Step Forward Awards honors volunteers from across the state who serve their communities in outstanding ways. We hope you'll join us this year at the Step Forward Awards Luncheon on October 6th in Lincoln. To register, visit serve.nebraska.gov and click Register Now. We hope to see you there. Paid for by Serve Nebraska, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Hello, this is Michaela Kumke from the Food Bank of Lincoln, inviting you to dine out to help out on Wednesday, September 13th. Nearly 100 community-minded restaurants will donate a portion of their day's sales to fight hunger in southeast Nebraska, which means your dine-out meals will help feed neighbors in need. Visit lincolnfoodbank.org for the list of participating locations and dine out to help out on September 13th.
Your parents don't want to move into assisted living. You worry about their safety stepping in and out of their deep bathroom tub. Now what?
You've got your very own handyman to help remodel your home.
You know, remodeling an existing bathroom for your loved ones can allow them to live in their own home longer. At Handyman, we provide families functional, safe, and convenient bathroom solutions with quality products that will last.
You don't have to break the bank or worry about a loved one breaking a hip. Rip out the old tub and replace it with a custom walk-in shower.
Choose from over 60 wall colors, multiple shower base heights and accessories. Adjustable shower heads, grab bars, bench seats, and easy-to-reach shelves can create a safe environment in your loved one's bathroom.
All through September, custom showers are on sale at Handyman.
Construct a bathroom that gives you peace of mind and is easier for your loved ones to use safely. Your family will thank you.
For the very best in bathrooms, come to Handyman under the arch on Sun Valley Boulevard, Lincoln.
Hello, neighbor. That's what you hear when you walk into a Super C convenience store. Nebraska owned and ready to serve our neighbors. Super C is hiring friendly, helpful neighborhood people to join their Best of Lincoln team. You'll receive competitive starting pay and great benefits, plus holiday pay, cash bonuses, free uniform, and the opportunity to advance with a local family-owned business. If you're looking for fun, friendly,
This is the Real Red Reaction Show.
Back with you. We're here live in Boulder at the Blur Parties. We've had to move indoors a little bit because we're not soft. As I step away, every pen I have is exploding on me. It looks like Elijah's taken 7 bars of soap and put them in socks and beaten me with them Full Metal Jacket style. That's not the case, but all my pens are exploding, which is too bad.
It's the
But
altitude.
there's too much enthusiasm with our voice guy
Need a pen?
on this post-game show. No, I have like 8 of them I buy at the dollar store. Free shout out Saturday, apparently. But
I could toss you this pin. It's definitely not exploding. You're just,
I would
you're just over my left
probably
shoulder
drop
there.
it. It would be deflected into the arms of a buff. Okay, that's what would happen if you would throw a pass to me, even if it's a pen. You know when it was going to go sideways, fellas? Nebraska, it's 13-7. Nebraska scores on that counter, and then Nebraska gets pressure. Sanders is staring at the sky. Ball's deflected, and Edwards makes a deflected over-the-shoulder catch for a gain of 7. It's like you knew, even with the turnovers in the first half, and Nebraska's down 13-0. They come out, they score. It's 13-7. But you just knew it wasn't going to be Nebraska's day for a lot of reasons. But the bounces went, and it got a little bit chippy. I thought it was an absolute garbage call on Teddy with that 15-yarder. Colorado lost a little bit of their composure, and Nebraska also, just to your point, Bill, some of the guys that have been in the program too long are committing penalties. And I just don't know. The conundrum you have if you're Nebraska is what's behind guys that aren't performing, and are they better? Someone is going Bob Marley time here. Wow.
Is it? Where?
It's behind me.
Could use some of that. I tell you what, after a game like today, my word.
Elijah's had enough. He's had enough of the 3:30
Red Bull
wait.
in hand. It's one of those days.
He's had enough of the 3:30 a.m. wake-up call. He had enough of the road trip with me. He's had enough of the ball game. He's had enough of walking. Can we talk a little bit about the Colorado experience, trying to find what gate we're supposed to go into?
Oh my. Okay. Here's the thing. This is not. I know there's some Colorado people in the chat, so I want to make it clear. This is not anti-Colorado as a whole, but my God, they cannot. Oh, I smell the Marley now. Yeah, there you are, Schmitty. It took a while to drift my way, but
not me.
This is not anti the experience as a whole. To be honest with you, Schmitty, walking around that stadium and talking to some Husker fans that were around, I think people were treated better by Colorado fans than they expected. There was the classic, "Oh, you're wearing red today," giving people guff. But from what I heard from Husker fans, for the most part, some students were a little bit rowdy, but other than that, the Colorado fans, by and large, were very receptive. But man, our treatment trying to get in to the press box was brutal. Where
they weren't rude; they just didn't have a clue where we were supposed to go.
Yeah, no, it was everyone you talked to
went around
told you a
the
different
stadium
place to go to.
3 times, 3 trips around the stadium. Overweight, asthmatic, 45-year-old Elijah is just like it's like Forrest Gump getting Bubba out of the jungle. He's dragging me finally to the gate we needed to get into. On a positive note, we at least got to see Coach Barnett before kickoff. That was good.
Yeah,
But
it was just a case of everyone telling you a different place to go to. And we finally did.
Oh,
make
you
it
can't come in here.
45 minutes before kickoff. Yeah, no, you can't come in here. Not with that backpack. No, we can't do that. So that was brutal. It was getting warm. I like that trip. I sweated through my deodorant. Schmitty could attest. He was sitting next to me in the press box. I sweated through my deodorant. I was a little late to the reaction show because I had to run back to my car and go grab my deodorant and re-deodorize before we started this show. That was interesting. And then the press box itself had a unisex bathroom. And what was so funny to me was like right next to the sink is just a urinal. There's no wall in between the urinal and the sink or anything. It's unisex. A woman could walk in any time, and just me sitting there with the urinal like right next to the sink.
No. There's 3 stalls and 1 urinal. All right.
A unisex bathroom. You don't put a urinal in a unisex bathroom.
It was open to everybody, but Gertie isn't going to roll in and use the urinal, dude. She's going to wait for the stall.
No, she's not going to use it. But if she's waiting for the stall, what's right in front of her? Me using the urinal.
Show and tell.
I would like to address some comments here. This is
Will's like, shut up and let me talk.
This is orange, okay? This is not Buffalo colors. All right, I just want to make that clear. This is my bar shirt. I got to go work at the bar after this, so cut me some slack, Jack. All right.
All right.
All right.
Yeah. So we've talked quarterback, we've talked offense, we've talked turnovers. Let's talk Satterfield. And I'm interested and this is Helmut Vaughn responding to our dear friend Steve, who's a loyal listener and tweeter to us. And it's interesting. We're in game 2 and everything's up for grabs. Oh no, it's going to be another home for the holiday season. That's the fear. Oh no, quarterback play isn't going to get better. That's a legit fear after 2 games. And it's going to keep costing you games if a change isn't made or improvements aren't made surrounding the quarterback where you can lean somewhere else. Kind of hard, though, because the offense has got to go through your quarterback. But Satterfield, people really didn't care for him. At least the vocal noise out there was happy that he left South Carolina. Now, Sat's offense was really good. South Carolina was one of the hottest teams in college football by the end of the year. He had Spencer Rattler, far different situation than Jeff Sims. But Rattler's had his ups and downs till he stabilized as the year went on. That, to me, if you're asking why hire Sat, why bring him in, well, you got history, for one, between him and Rule. But 2, there's belief he can get a quarterback better. And that's really the $1 million question right now. Can the defense keep playing at this level? Will they have to keep playing at this level? That's a monster ask, okay? That's like asking Sue's 09 defense to do what they did without a Sue on this team. But the offense, I think, can get better. I think you can keep working in some other personnel on the offensive line to further this run. Nebraska ran for 222 yards, and you just got to get quarterback fixed. That's a big just, but that's really the truth of it. I mean, the offense needs to be putting up 28 to 30 points a ball game. That's going to win you games in the Big Ten. And currently they are woefully below that. You have 2 touchdowns and 10 points. 10 points against Minnesota, 2 touchdowns today against Colorado, 1 when it was still within reach. So there's so many kinks to work out. You go back to the spring game, this team was just Bill, you froze.
Oh, I thought you were frozen. I'm watching an Amigos commercial.
Oh. Well, we have a friend that we may have spent the last 2 days with that have billboards going up with him too.
I'm taking a chance on one eye there. Yeah, that's kind of rough. Look, I to be honest with you, I was most critical of the 3 straight pass plays last week against Minnesota. I thought that was ill-timed. I thought for the most part that the play calling, given what they have to work with and the limitations that we are seeing at quarterback, I think the play calling today was okay. You know, they moved the ball.
Execution.
You know, they moved the ball down the field. They got in field goal range, and then they had a procedure penalty, and then doink one off the uprights. Could have led the game 3-0. You had that. The fumbles, the interceptions last week. You've got one guy turning the ball over, but I think for the most part, given what that offense apparently is, that Satterfield has called it a decent game. It does come down to execution and holding on to the football. They ran the ball decently at times today and picked up 5, 6, 8 yards. There were a couple of option looks. One in the first half I think would have been fairly productive, but I don't know if there was a penalty that called it back or stopped the play. But there were a couple of times where there were option looks that that was nice to see. I don't think we've seen a fullback carry the ball yet, but I think it's been okay in terms of what they want to do offensively. They just have not held on to the ball at critical times, and it's cost them points on the board and allowed the other team to take advantage and put points on the board with short fields and steal momentum.
And the first place people's mind always goes whenever an offense isn't performing up to snuff is, well, it must be the coordinator. there's a couple examples I want to bring up here. First, Brian Ferentz gets made fun of a lot at Iowa. He put up more points in the first half today than Nebraska put up in the entire game against Minnesota, than Nebraska put up in the entire game against Colorado. And
Hold on. One of those scores was a pick six.
Excuse me.
But still points, Bill. We're going to get picky.
That was going to be a topic that I was going to put on the table for later. Does the pick six go in the Brian Ferentz 25 points or more column?
Scored 24 last week.
Well, I know. He's got to score 25. So does the pick six by given up by Iowa State, does that go into the positive Brian Ferentz column?
But I had another point I want to bring up there. We can get to Brian Ferentz here in a second. Everyone remembers Tim Beck at Nebraska because Tim Beck was the easy guy to throw under the bus. What was that, 2011, 2012, 2013?
Tim Beck scored 40 a game.
People love to throw Tim Beck under the bus, though. I don't want to go revisionist history and say Tim Beck was a great offensive coordinator because he had his flaws as an offensive coordinator, but people love to hate on Tim Beck.
It's a great recruiter.
He goes off to Ohio State for a year, leads the number 12 offense in the country that year. Remember, he has some more pieces around him. People, after that Ohio State year, really liked what Tim Beck was. And he goes off to Texas, and then now he's a head coach at Coastal Carolina. He had success following Nebraska. But what did people love doing at Nebraska? Throw him under the bus. I think people need to look at the talent that Satterfield's working with offensively right now. Satterfield can't go out there and say, hey, you know what? I want you from Jeff Sims. You know what you do? I want you to fumble the ball 3 times, twice just trying to get a snap, and once trying to hand it to Gabe Ervin. Like, it's an easy person to throw under the bus right now, and maybe at some point this season we will throw Satterfield under the bus. Maybe it's going to be a couple of seasons from now. But you have to look first and foremost at the guys on the field and say they're not performing how they need to perform in order to execute this offense.
This is into the email box, Chris at Hale Varsity. So Jamie says, I sit here in a sea of ding-dongs waving gold and black pom-poms. I feel an overwhelming sense of sadness. Every loss is harder and harder to understand. Quote, we need more time to rebuild. They say Colorado was 1-11 last year. They're destroying us. I'm still a fan. I don't want to hear about how I shouldn't be a fair weather fan. Just quit doing dumb things. Is that so much to ask? I played on good teams. I played on bad teams. The difference is caring and speed. Go find faster players. So that's Jamie chiming in. That's the other part. I mean, how many guys, Elijah, we see wearing the Saturdays are for pain and sadness t-shirt? The Nebraska fan came prepared today. Bill, Elijah, Will, Nebraska fans have been through the ringer with coaching changes, with hope, with promise. We go back to John's phone call where he hates how the coaching is going. Listen, I'm going to go the other side of that coin and saying, I thought they're trying to call what can work and what can win, and sometimes the kids are screwing it up. That's what I saw today with two non Cam Jurgens prefixing his snap issue snaps back to the quarterback. This is just basic fundamental stuff when it comes to reading defenses, when it comes to your footwork at quarterback, when it comes to, do you throw to one side of the field only? There was too much bet right now in hindsight after 2 games on the upside with Sims, his athleticism, his arm talent, the 4-star. We're getting a guy that just didn't have enough whatever at Georgia Tech. You bring him into Lincoln and air quote, we'll make it better. Right now, that has been a monster problem for Nebraska offensively with the turnovers, 8 quarters, 8 turnovers, as Brandon chimes in. That's it. You take half of those turnovers away, Nebraska might be at least 1-1.
Can you go to the phone lines?
Yeah, we got Darren.
Thank you.
We got Darren on the phone.
Okay. Darren, thanks for your patience. Go ahead, bud.
Oh, no worries, y'all. Thanks for having us. We were just at the game, and we were just talking about all the fan support that was out there. I was kind of expecting it, not to be a little bit more of a red out, but at what point, I guess our question is it's not a question of whether or not we can support this team or not, because this is our team no matter what. But what can we ask for as fans that translates onto the field success? Because, I mean, the fan support's still there. It wasn't quite the 60-40 split we were expecting, I think. We were surrounded by friends at the game. You know, things were friendly for the most part, chirping back and forth, classic rivalry games. But it's driving out to Colorado, you know, the 8-hour drives and showing up for the team just to watch 3 turnovers in the first half is a same old story. Let me
ask you, Darren, did you feel at halftime, Darren, did you feel like it was over at halftime or not?
Well, we were at the end of the half, it was 13 to nothing, and we felt like we had a chance if we had a chance in the fourth quarter, and at the beginning of the fourth quarter, we weren't out of it. But if this team is built on what can you do in the fourth quarter, how do you
get there?
build a program that brings you success at the start of the fourth quarter? What the halftime adjustments I thought were better than they were under the previous administration, but are halftime adjustments enough when you're not pulling out a new quarterback? Do you need it more extreme halftime adjustments, even though we're trying to stay this long, steady course of a long rebuild?
You know, they didn't run Sims much in the first half. They ran him more in the second, and maybe you should have started out running them more in the first half, but it comes down to 2 drop snaps that were catchable and a bad interception. Darren, hang in there, and we'll see what next Saturday brings, all right?
Hey, well, we're cheering for him no matter what, but we're here.
Appreciate you, Darren. Thanks, man.
Well,
That's you hear the tone and the voice, Elijah, Bill, Will?
Defeated.
Yeah, you've got a breaking point right now, and Saturday for some can't come quick enough. Maybe some folks will take next Saturday off. I hope that isn't the case.
Yeah. Well, I think the next 2 games are vitally important. There's no doubt about it. You know, if you come out against Northern Illinois and Louisiana Tech, and you're in battles and you come up short, it would be bad. You know, all the feel good that Nebraska's had since the moment Matt Rule stepped at the podium back in late November. I mean, people bought in immediately when he gave
you want to buy in if you're a Nebraska fan.
Yeah, at that introductory press conference, you know, I think he said, "I don't want to win the press conference." Trev doesn't want to win the press conference. Nebraska dominated the press conference, and it has been glorious since late November until 5 minutes to go in the Minnesota game, and it didn't happen. And then today you had a defense. I still say that defense gave Nebraska a chance to win the game. Nebraska's offense did it in, and then Colorado took advantage. And Colorado's really good. They've got great skill position players, and they took advantage. There's no question about it. If Nebraska's offense plays flawlessly, do they win? Maybe, maybe not, but it wouldn't have been 36-14, I don't believe. But Colorado certainly was better today. But if Nebraska comes out and this whole thing about, well, it's the rebuild, and, you know, this is what happened at Temple and Baylor, the loss to Northern Illinois is not going to cut it. The loss to Louisiana Tech is not going to cut it. Can you accept losing to Michigan in week 5? Probably.
How bad?
I think we've been tempered to a certain extent after the first weeks. But, you know, I listened to Matt Rule say in the press conference that, you know, Jeff's the first person to say you can't turn the ball over 3 times. No, there's 2.3 million people within the state borders that know you can't turn the ball over 3 times in a game. You know, we know what we see here. We know what we see. And we know what can happen when it's not going quite right. And you can't fool Nebraska football fans, you know, if you're not playing well or you're not paying attention to detail. They know it. You don't have to say, well, Jeff, no, we do. And if you don't play well against Northern Illinois and Louisiana Tech and play like winners, that's not going to be good. The defense, you mentioned earlier, Chris, can the defense continue to do it? I think it can. I think it's only going to get better. I think that defense probably believes.
If you don't some semblance of complementary football, that defense will fold. Not on purpose, but they won't be able to sustain it. Kansas Husker gets to the heart of the question here for Saturday, because that's what this week has now become. It's Jeff Sims' watch. How much do you really think about making a change? Can you stick with him? Do you stick with him one more game? Say he has a turnover-free game. Say he has a turnover two games in a row and builds up to something in Michigan? Or are you just playing with fire? Is there too much history on tape? That first graphic that Fox showed where he leads all of college football in turnovers through 25 games, 43 of them, I think, was the number, the most. And you're not a stranger to that as Nebraska fans. You've had that graphic. You've been a top 3 college with quarterbacks turning the football over the last 10 years. Pick a staff. That's what's happened. And I would look at Harburg. I would absolutely look at Harburg. And if he can't get you what you need in the passing game, then so be it. But at least he'll take care of the foot. But
what's
he'll
Jeff
at least
Sims
take care
giving you in the passing game? What's Jeff Sims giving you in the passing game? 55% completion percentage for 100 yards and 3 picks.
No, I know. I mean, we're talking under 120 yards passing the last 2 games. No, absolutely. I mean, you're not. There's minimal threat with him throwing the football. Your path to success is on the ground with a quarterback as part of that ground attack. And you got to really look at Harburg, I think. And I hate. Listen, I'm not a knee jerk. Well, pull him out. I'm not that guy. It's more than just the quarterback a lot of times, but in this instance, it's been the quarterback with his fumbles and issues taking care of the football, and it's put everybody on that team on edge from a performance standpoint and what you're asking of the other side of the football. It's absolutely killed your chance to win the last 2 games, because things have been served up on a platter. This thing could have been 70-10. You want to talk about field position and what Colorado took the football over much of the first half? And you know what? Urban Meyer nailed the score today, I think. I think he got it on the button with his prediction. And the other news after this ball game is Deion Sanders taking a helicopter ride to Coors Field for the Rockies game. So he might be thrown out the first pitch tonight.
Well, it'd be nice to finally have a winner inside Coors Field for once.
Whoa.
Wow. That's code for Elijah's glass is empty.
No, I'm only half full here. This is just I'm a Rockies fan, kinda. They suck so bad that I don't really support them, but Rockies
Fumble,
fan, kind of.
punt, missed field goal, fumble, interception, punt. Those are your drives, ladies and gentlemen. That is your drive until the third quarter, 57-yard touchdown run.
I think Colorado's defense played once they got the lead. Their defense played much more aggressively, took chances, lined up, ready to stop the run. Yeah, because they could. So, but I think their defense played extremely well and probably sent a message for the rest of the season that can be a pretty good defensive unit as well. But back to the question about
Sims.
Sims. Look. I don't think you can. I don't think you can. I think you can. I think you have to start him, but I think you can probably have a fairly quick hook if you have to. But I think you have to start him in the game.
Yeah, I give him 2 series.
I want to get into the fragile psyche. I don't want to get on the leather couch and look up and count the lights. Okay, I don't want to do that. But I'm just saying, you got to start him, and you got to say, "All right, bud. Any more of this? You and Anthony Grant can talk. Can it can work on the fundamentals of holding on to the football together. Okay, but that's where I am on that.
Well, here's the thing. There's two ways I can go with this. And I think you're going to have an open quarterback competition. You have 1A and 1B in Jeff Sims and Heinrich Harburg this week of practice, because the two ways I can look at it. You could have two get-right games for Jeff Sims, build some confidence against Northern Illinois, build some confidence against Louisiana Tech. But on the other hand, it could also be two games for Heinrich Harburg to get his feet wet, so whenever he's stepping in, it's not against Colorado on the road in a hostile environment. You get some chances in front of the home fans against teams that you should have a talent advantage against, and I don't like saying that right now because we don't know how next week's going to look. We don't know how good this Husker team actually is. But you would have potentially two games for Heinrich Harburg to get his feet wet and give him the chance to you know what, build some confidence before Michigan comes to town and inevitably crushes that confidence, because that's what Michigan loves to do. Or do you give Jeff Sims the chance to build some confidence and fix some of the issues that have plagued him? I don't know, but based on what I've seen from Jeff Sims through 2 games and 25 games at Georgia Tech, I don't think that he will change what he is anytime soon. What he is right now, and what he has been his entire career is a turnover machine.
He is. I would give him. He's got a man. Let's open it up. Let's open up the competition. I've already said I'm for. Let's see what Harburg can do. Let's see what Harburg can do. Let's give him a shot. And I say you reassess and try and build up plan B for Michigan. Here's what I don't think happens. I don't think you'll see Rule do that. I don't think you'll see Satterfield do it. They're going to ride with the guy that they went after. And I don't think they're ready to admit we missed on the portal, on moving Casey. I think so. I honestly wouldn't. No, they're going to stick with their guy, because if they move on again, this could affect chances to go get a guy that might actually be right. I just think it sends a bad message, maybe in their mind. I'm trying to read the crystal ball. I don't think they're ready to admit they made a mistake and switch quarterbacks.
I think it sends a worse message to your team.
Absolutely,
it does. It sends a worse message to your team that, hey, you it's selective accountability here at Nebraska. If you're Anthony Grant and you fumble it once in the game, well, you're subjected to the pits of hell. You're never going to see the field again. Enjoy left bench. But hey, if you're the quarterback and you turn the football over 6 times in 2 games, well, we are the guy you are the guy that we picked. So
you brought up a great point in the test of accountability. They've nailed a lot of the accountability parts of this throughout the season, right? So this is the test of it. Last thought before we say goodbye: Lars has fired back at the Sanders account of disrespect. Quote tweet from our friend Lars Anderson: "This is a beauty of fiction."
Yeah,
is what Lars puts down. We will let Will.
The reality of the situation doesn't matter. The reality doesn't matter. It's as simple as that. If Colorado was motivated for this game for that reason, it doesn't matter how true it is. History is written by the victors. So a long-time quote, and history has been written by Shedeur Sanders. Matt Rule's talking bad, and that's why Colorado's fired up for this game. Doesn't matter if it's true or not. They were the victors. They have written the history. That's how this game's going to go down in the minds of Colorado fans.
And just if you're wondering, at Herbal Essence, you did predict or jinx more so the interception?
Yeah, this guy knows ball. No, I don't.
Elijah Herbal with us. Real Red Reaction saying, fare thee well. Thanks for spending time. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll be back at you from the graduate from our friends Saturday. Single Barrel is where we'll be pre and post game next Saturday. Excited for that. Nebraska trying to get on the right track. Bill Dolman, we love you much. You and Will both have a steak waiting for you.
Great. Thanks for letting me play.
Hey, thank you. We'll see how it spins moving forward, and we'll talk to you on Monday. Hail Varsity at 4. We'll take care, get healed up, and pour a tall one for those Husker fans back in Lincoln.
Will do. I'll talk to you soon. Travel safe.
Right. Yep. Thanks, everyone, for checking out Real Red Reaction with KFOR, KFORnow.com. And we'll talk to you on Monday at 4. Thanks.